Chefs, what is the beef? Cam here, welcome to another live video, and what we're going to be discussing in today's topic is talking the only way to address your mental health problems. Probably a controversial one, and a massive disclaimer I'll put on this is that, this is my opinion and what I've seen work in the past 2 years. That this isn't just something that I'm going to be pulling out of my arse, because obviously they're not controversial topics, and mental health shouldn't be a controversial topic, but it is a sensitive topic. So I want to say that at the start. You know what I mean? People might have differing opinions to how I see things. This is my personal opinion. So let's look at what the problem is first and foremost. 4 out of 5, so I had a chat with Chris from Burnt Chef Project about 2 weeks ago on the podcast, and he'd shown me some facts because he'd done a lot of statistics which are very lacking in the industry, and he found some pretty mad stats and numbers. So here's a mad stat. 4 out of 5 chefs in the UK have experienced mental health problems. 4 out of 5. That's 80%. And it's probably more like 85%, which is a pretty fucking astronomical number. So we already know there's massive attrition rates. We already know there's people walking away, but 4 out of 5 people experiencing mental health problems as chefs in the UK. And I'd be interested to see what it is worldwide. I know that this problem is especially bad in the UK though. And Ireland, obviously I'm including there. So 4 out of 5, that's a big problem. We all either know someone who has been lost, we've lost through suicide, or a friend of a friend, or, we know what the issue is. We know it. You're seeing it on a daily basis. It's not some fucking hidden thing that's happening. It is happening behind closed doors because not enough people are openly talking about it. But as an industry, it's a problem. So we think about what actually needs to be done. Yes, there is a stigma. And the reason that there is a stigma is because within a kitchen environment, it's not seen, it's not encouraged to speak about your feelings and being sincere about what you're going through. The kitchen environment really gets you to a point where, everyone wants to be that person who can do the most hours or hack it the most, who can deal with the most stress, who wants to be the toughest. Like, it's a bit of a pissing contest. That's what the environment encourages. But what's the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of that is actually being honest about your feelings. So a kitchen environment does not encourage you to be honest about your feelings. So many chefs are struggling heavily behind closed doors without talking about what's happening to them. All right, they're behind closed doors, not talking about what's happening to them, and actually don't have the tools to get themselves out of that situation. So that's why we have a fucking terrifying amount of suicides happening right now. So we know that's the problem. Okay, we know why it's a problem. And work conditions are going to be a part of this. Absolutely, work conditions are going to be a part of this, and they do have a big influence. What I want to talk about is empowering you practically with what you need to do. You practically, not someone else outside of you, you. And this is my opinion. That talk, as I said, removing the stigma is important. But once we remove that stigma and people are able to talk about it, is talk really the only solution that's going to address this thing? I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is. In fact, I know it isn't. And I'll give you an example. There's a mentor of mine called Paul Morton. He did a video and he was talking about a similar topic to this. And he's a bit more hard line. And he was kind of saying, this mollycoddling culture isn't going to help anybody. Like, we don't need people just complaining about how they're feeling. We need people to open up about how they're feeling and then actually action something from there practically to address the problem. Talk is cheap if you don't follow it with action. And that's what he's trying to get across. And he was saying that there was, I believe it was a group of chefs or even just a group of men who would meet up and talk about their mental health. And then after they were finished talking about their mental health problems, like depression, anxiety, then what would happen is they'd go to the pub and they'd get absolutely shit-faced. And for me, I look at that and I go, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's not that I have a problem with drink. There's a fucking cocktail kit in the back over there. It's that I know what the triggers are. And if you've got issues mentally, you've got to identify your triggers and start sorting those patterns out. So let's say for a life of a chef, the lifestyle of a chef, if it goes unchecked, is a recipe for bad mental health. So you think about the stodgy food that you might be picking at during the day because you're not getting time to eat a proper meal, getting takeaways at night or after work, drinking on a regular basis. Fucking we all know this. It's like smoking cigarettes at the end of a week. You're out in the session, you know, you wake up on your day off and you're absolutely fucking devoid of any kind of serotonin and you're fucked. That's a pattern that a lot of chefs fall into. That's what the lifestyle generally looks like for a lot of people. Now, as you get older, you probably veer away from that if you're managing yourself. But for the most part, it's an unhealthy lifestyle that leads you into that dark place. It's a trigger. And if you don't identify the trigger and start fixing the trigger and changing it for something, it's just going to continue to happen. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result. So if I know every single week that if I talk to someone that, you know, and I explain the fact that I'm feeling, you know, about a depression, and this is all these are all the things that I'm feeling, that is in the moment, it alleviates some pain, because we're in pain when we're struggling mentally. I alleviate pain by talking to someone, but because I'm not fixing the pattern that led to the pain in the first place, the pain is going to happen again. So this is the whole thing about those guys meeting up, feel great because we've all talked about our mental health. Let's go to the fucking pub and get shit-faced and then wake up tomorrow depressed again. That's not fixing a problem. That's just talking about your problems. And in my opinion, men especially do not need to be fucking mollycoddled. Men right now in our world need to be led. And they need to be led firmly. And they need to be empowered to stand up and fucking do something. And the reason that I'm so specifically talking about, I know there's females who struggle mentally. I know that, and you can learn something from this as well. However, 75-80% of suicides are male. So it's a majority of male problem. And as I said, going to the pub after you've spoken up about your issues and then getting shit-faced and waking up in the shit mentally again the next day, that's mollycoddling each other. You know? What you really should be saying is, well, let's sort our fucking shit out so we're not in that situation again. You know, what can we do so we're not in this situation again? It's great that we're talking, there's no stigma, fantastic. What's the triggers? So for a lot of us, alcohol is going to be a trigger. So that's why for me, I'll have one day in the week where I'll have a drink. Outside of that, I don't. Why? Because I know if I was drinking on a regular basis, I would be depressed all the time. So I don't do it. Social media could be another one for people. It's like, you don't feel good about yourself, jump on social media, see all these people living their fucking perfect life, you're going to start making a comparison, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting stressed and you're going to start getting anxious. That's a trigger. Shit sleep is going to be a trigger. That's a trigger for me. I know if I get less than 7 hours sleep, I am waking up like a fucking nightmare the next day. So that's a trigger for me, and if I do that regularly, I'm going to end up in a dark place. I know what my triggers are and I do my best to control my triggers. And the way for you to address that is not only about talking about the issue, but addressing the triggers. Like, vices are your big ones. Like, think about where you're at after your vices. Whether it be fucking alcohol, whether it be weed, whether it be cigarettes, whether it be cocaine, whatever, fill in the fucking gap. You know, if you think about where you're at after that, and if you're doing it on a regular basis and where you're at mentally, cool, well, you could probably identify a couple of things there, you know, so you got to be able to know your triggers. That's the second step. So you've talked, cool, identify the triggers. The last thing then is about, okay, well, am I living my life in a way that's not serving me mentally? Am I living my life in a way that's not serving me mentally? That's a huge one. For me personally, even though I've always been an athlete and I've always been fit, I didn't always live my life to be happy, if that makes sense. I trained to get good at a sport, like powerlifting that I was doing at the time, but I didn't have a routine and I didn't have a structure to my life that ultimately made me satisfied and happy. So I compare how I operate now to how I operate then. I operate now in a way where I wake up early, I do my yoga, I do my meditation, I do my exercise, and I plan my day. And that's my morning routine every single day without fail. And the reason is because I created that structure because I know that structure will make me a lot happier as a person, and it will stop me falling into those triggers as I was talking about where I'm struggling mentally. So that routine that I've built out, I consistently did it over and over and over again until it became second nature, and now it's a habit. And now by default, I live my life in a way that's disciplined, that's healthy, that's active, and it pretty much causes me to avoid all the pitfalls mentally that I would normally fall into. Whereas without that structure and without those habits, I would be up and down like a yo-yo. And I know that, so I control that. So again, take it from the top. Talking is the first step, but it's not the only step. And if you're only talking, I'd fucking bet the house that you're not actually taking full responsibility for what's happening. You know, at the end of the day, all of us, it's our life. I know when I was struggling mentally, it was my life that I needed to sort out. And when I knew that, I had to change my ways. So again, the talk leads to addressing your triggers and knowing what to dial back. And then from there, it's about structuring your lifestyle in a way that gets you to feel the way you want it to feel. And changing and replacing the way that you were living your life before, which is ultimately taking you down a dark road. Really, really important stuff. Okay, guys, so as you think about what problems you may be facing, think about which of those 3 that you might be falling down on. Because I guarantee if you really apply some focus into one of those that you might be falling down on and really make it a thing for yourself, your situation will improve massively. All right, so that's our video for today. Thumbs up or a heart if you enjoyed it, my friends. Comments in the section below if you have any questions or feedback. Much love to all of you, and if anyone is struggling, send us a message and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Cheers, guys.